Welcome, my friends, to Inside the Minds of Authors. I'm DC Gomez, and I'm thrilled you're joining me today for a fun conversation with a passionate author. We're kicking off the program, like it's our tradition, with a short reading from the feature book. I hope you guys enjoy it. Let's get started.
So we're Brianna and Matthew Penfold. We're the authors of the Intrepid Three, Animus Revealed. And we're going to start by reading the prologue and into chapter 1 of our book. Before time, everything was pitch black, except for a lone bright light in the expanse. Suddenly, the light flared, then again. On the third flare, there was a great explosion. Elements fused into the cosmos, stars, planets, and galaxies. Life sprang in the wake of the emanating wave. Remaining at the center of it all was the original light. The light named each celestial body. One star, Calamus, the most brilliant, was plucked from its arrangement in the universe. It was chosen for a special purpose, the instrument to write the future of all humanity. The star was effortlessly fashioned into a long sliver of light resembling a pen, and the all-powerful light wrote into the darkness. Showing careful attention, the light shone over a world called Pax. Calamus was used to create the most beautiful home imaginable for the Paxians. Life expanded as flora and fauna flourished. After a long passage of time, which was only a flash for the light, it wielded Calamus again, forming the most beloved caste, people. The light's paramount act of love was to place the peace of Calamus in human hearts. While the light was the original creator, Calamus permitted humans to create by their will, for better or worse. Chapter 1, Euphoria, Monday, 7:50 a.m. The world was full of concrete, glass, and steel. In Euphoria, the distant sun, a rare acquaintance, peaked only above the tips of the skyscrapers once a day. There was almost always a light drizzle landing on the sea of bustling black umbrellas and the exhausted arms attached. The smog sat heavily on the horizon, while pedestrians swarmed in and out of the skyscrapers and donned their white E-Corp uniform, black E-Corp umbrella, and black E-Corp satchel. None of the apparel was without each person's employee identification number prominently displayed. The masses did not lift their heads, seemingly oblivious to the flocks of helicopters dropping off management on the roofs of each steel giant. Hurry up and scan your badge. It's not like you have all day. An unempathetic guard, only known as EC01399259, shouted his familiar greeting at the 15-year-old Des. The teenager's hazel eyes no longer held their youthful glow. Like most children in Euphoria, Des Gibbous was forced to grow up early and begin her monotonous career. Her bland E-Corp uniform looked as though it could swallow up her skinny 5'8" frame, so she used an extra belt to force the unappealing garb around her slim waist. Makeup was expensive in Euphoria, but even if Des could buy some, she wouldn't have used it. It was too much work on top of an already suffocating schedule. Her short and stick-straight brown bob was just as low maintenance as her facial routine. Des wondered if EC01399259 was able to say anything else. And just like every day, she didn't move any faster, knowing that her 12-hour shift would be just as tedious as yesterday's. Moving through the scanner, the loyalty building opened to a large atrium filled with dozens of glass elevators. Des shuffled over to wait in the queue for elevator C, with all the other hundreds of coders that worked on floors 30 through 49. Climbing aboard, Des and 20 other coders waited for the daily motivational briefing. As the elevator started to ascend, a programmed holographic image of the brightly dressed CEO of E-Corp appeared on the panes of the elevator glass. The cheery voice boomed through the occupants' employee identification numbers and paused after each to comment on their productivity ratings. Good morning, EC3315763. Des nervously listened as her statistics were read to the entire elevator, knowing she was dangerously close to being reprimanded. The voice didn't lose its upbeat cadence while reading Dez's dismal numbers. You are currently performing at a 2.1, which is 0.3 down from last week. E Corp looks forward to improving your productivity. Remember, you are a valued member of the E Corp team, but you are replaceable. Most of the other occupants' numbers were above 3.5, a very safe tier to find oneself. The highest potential rating was a 7.0, but this was impossible to achieve. Management made sure of that with their rigged algorithm. Productivity in the minds of management was the only thing that mattered. Above 2.0, managers left their employees alone, but below 2.0, managers began to take action at their own discretion. Discipline always meant firings, and firings always meant becoming a forgotten. A gun had no place in the E Corp world, and if a person had no place in the E Corp world, they had no place at all.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Inside the Minds of Authors. Hope you guys are doing amazing today. As I've been telling you guys all season long, we have some amazing authors and incredible books to introduce you all to. So hope you guys enjoy that reading as much as I did, because let's be honest, we all have questions. If you're new to the podcast, make sure to subscribe. You do not want to miss a single episode. You do not want to miss these amazing authors coming on. Make sure to give us a love. If you've been following us for a while, give us a review, give us a like, share with a friend. We're always better when we're growing together. So let's get started. Hello, Miss Brianna. Hello, Mr. Matthew. How are you guys?
We're good. Thanks for having us.
We're excited.
I am excited to have you guys. You are probably my first husband-wife combo duo authors. And I'm like, this is interesting and exciting. So, congratulations on the debut book. This is huge.
Thank you.
I'm trying to figure out where do we start because I have questions in all different directions. But let's bring it back. Let's start with the book because I want to know this story. I started very Genesis from the beginning and creation and the light. I'm like, okay. And then we got to the future and I'm like, oh, that's kind of depressing. What's just happened? Let's start with that. Where did this idea come from? Give us a little bit about the book. Is this a series? Tell us, what are we listening to?
Yeah, so it is a series. So this is the first of 3. And of course, everybody has a pandemic story. So this is part of our pandemic story. And so I was at home working remotely, and Matt was still having to go in a little bit to work, but a little less. And I had more time. I had more time to sit and think, watch the news, all those good things. And so I decided to just think about what positive thing could we come up with in a time that definitely was pretty bleak, just with all of the illness, but also the political divide and discourse. And it was just tough to just sit in that. So we decided to come up with an idea. So I came up with the original, just very basic plan for the book and then presented it to Matt. And we thought, what could we do with it? So we just started writing and it turned into a book. And so then now we're hopeful it's going to be a series.
Yeah.
So who actually, and I ask this question to every partner that I have, who actually does the typing here? Like, how does this work? Let's get technical on this book.
That's such a good question because that was one of the biggest things we had to figure out is who was going to type.
Yeah.
And so we probably for a few months, we went back and forth and then figured out it was better for me to type.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I think she is a better multitasker than I am. And so she can think and type at the same time. And I think when I was typing, we moved much more slowly and less efficiently. So it was better to just have her do all the typing. Yeah.
I've seen partners who do one, they chapter, they change POVs, they do all this stuff. So I'm like, I'm always impressed because as a one person team, I'm like, oh, how do you share that? Who picks?
Yeah.
Tell me.
It's definitely a process for us, for sure, trying to figure it out. And it continued, I mean, even as we wrote the book and even the editing process, like it just kind of continued to evolve throughout the entire time. And we figured out what worked best for us. But every single word of the book, I mean, we were sitting together. Nobody wrote a chapter or even a paragraph without the other person right there and helping through it.
This is a really seamless collaboration. You guys got to play and be able to create this world Did you guys get tired of each other? Let's be honest. This is a lot of together time.
Thankfully, we didn't. So we've been married for almost 14 years and then dated for 4 years before that. So we're pretty used to each other now, but this was a different process. So we did have to kind of figure out some new aspects of each other and figure out how we could work well doing this together because we had never done anything like this together. There were some initial challenges for sure.
Yeah.
Well, writing is one of the most, I say it and people look at me crazy, the most selfish thing you can do because nobody can do it with you. And you guys completely shatter my theory because I'm like, oh, I guess you can do it together. When I have to think of something else to tell people, as a couple writing this story and as the story developed, how do your characters shifted and migrated? Because usually as an author, it's all in your head, but when you share with somebody else, how did the development happen?
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of our characters, just from a simplistic standpoint, had different names when we first came up with it, and their names sort of changed with time. But a lot of the character development, just plot development in general, was one person threw out an idea, we maybe wrote it, and then the other person was like, well, what about if we did add this little wrinkle or add this little thing? And then maybe we write the rest of the chapter. And sometimes we then go back later and we even refine it a little bit more. So it was really kind of like a passing back and forth of playing off of each other. Like she comes up with an idea, I add to it, and then that just like spurs another idea from her. And it was kind of nice having two minds because ultimately it ended up being a better product with the two minds brainstorming together.
Did you guys find yourself talking about the book when you were not writing, like walking down the street, like, oh, by the way, think about this. How did that work?
Oh, definitely. As you know, ideas come to you at the weirdest times. I'm in the shower and then I jump out and I'm like texting myself ideas. And then he gets home from work and I'm like, here's this idea. When inspiration hits, you just have to kind of write it down. And then when the other person's available, share it. But I mean, it was definitely permeated into our lives for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Inspiration is going to find you working, as Picasso calls it, but it also finds you in the most inappropriate times. Like, I'm going down the highway. What are we doing here? Like,
exactly. I know.
what do we do with this idea?
Exactly. Like mowing the lawn. Like, what am I going to do right now? I can't.
Midway through things, the best part is when inspiration finds you for a book that you're not writing. Have you guys find yourself doing that yet?
Oh, yeah. Matt will have an idea for another book. And I'm like, oh my goodness, we need to finish this.
I would like to tell you it gets better or it doesn't. Like you're going to have ideas for things and you're like, I feel like I'm cheating on my book. I'm not even done with you. But that one sounds so good.
Right.
I want to know more. Let's get back into the book because your process is amazing. And I love the energy. I love the fact that you're still very excited about it. Before we leave, how did it feel to get the book in your hand, like the very first time?
That was
so amazing.
It was weird, honestly, at first to have conceptualized this whole thing, and we had seen the cover art, which we really, really liked, but then to actually have the book in hand was a little surreal, honestly,
and a little emotional, I would say too.
I think so. Yeah, it's like your little baby, like you've been working on it for so long, and to finally see it in hard copy. It was really nice.
Yeah.
Your first book is always your baby. I don't care what anybody says.
I know. I'm sure.
And it doesn't matter if you change covers, don't change covers. My poor child has been through many different iterations of what it looked like from the beginning. And it's still like that baby that you're like, God, I did that. Like that happened. That really happened. So congratulations.
Thank you.
The story. I needed to know. I'm feeling very YA. Is this what you said, dystopia that started in your mind? But what is it? Are we looking YA fantasy or this is what are we looking at? Tell me.
Yeah, it's definitely YA fantasy. We hope everyone will enjoy it, but that's kind of the audience that we had in mind. I was also pregnant at the time that we started writing the book. And so we wanted to create something that, you know, when our son got a little bit older, that he could read and enjoy and relate to. And so we had that in mind. So we knew that this was very much a message for anyone, but specifically for young adults.
The creation process of this book from the beginning. What is our character going through? Because I'm sorry, at 16 and I'm going to a factory and then you have this uniform and then, by the way, you're not productive. I was like, oh God, I don't think I was on time to school. Can we get to basic? Like what happened here?
So this is one of our three main characters. the story opens with the Genesis story of this world, and then called Pax. And then within Pax, there are three separate worlds. And the first character that we read about already is Des Gibbous, and she lives in a place called Euphoria. And Euphoria is meant to be a very like dystopian, somewhat depressing place to live, where the entire community is built around this corporation that has become so oppressive that even children are working to make money for them. I think it's meant to represent sort of a lot of the fear that was very much in the world that at the time that we wrote it, and it really still continues today, but like it was really meant to represent fear and how has this character like been formed through that fearful process. And then as we get further into the book, we'll open up with a couple other worlds as well that each kind of have their own vice or problem of their own. And then we find this character author whose role is to reunite paths and heal the world of all these different maladies. And he invites these main characters from each of the world to do that.
That's a really intense arc with a lot of pieces going around.
Yes.
Have you guys started working on book 2?
We have. We're probably about a third of the way in. And honestly, it's, I think, more fun to continue the story and write the second book because we're so invested in their lives now. It feels like our characters are a part of us. And so we're excited to put pen to paper again and just write the next chapter for these characters.
How are you guys finding time to do that? Because you have a child. Let's add that to the equation. We're back to regular semi-post-COVID world. How does it finding time to actually create, write, and have a life coming together?
Yeah, it's much harder now. I'll be the first to admit that.
Yeah.
We definitely had more time. We now have a 3-year-old and he has a lot of energy and he keeps us on our toes for sure. And so we just have to find time, usually at night, but for anybody that has a child, they know that sleep schedules are not always consistent. So even at night, we may not have time to write. So we always tell each other, let's just write a little bit every night. And even if it's a sentence, a paragraph, just put something down so that we're moving forward. So it's definitely hard to find the time now.
It is definitely difficult, because we definitely don't have dedicated work time to do that sort of thing, because work and raising a child takes up all of that. So it's a matter of finding the time.
Making the time, finding time is a challenge, I think, for most authors, but it's also finding that balance and that flow. Because it's very easy for one side of your life to get off balance while you're trying to create. So I'm glad that every single part of your life still has a priority and you still realize that we still have to have a life because, there's a kid who doesn't really care that you wrote a book.
Exactly. He has no idea. He doesn't care. And he'll make sure that we are playing with him, having fun with him, going and doing things. That's not going to stop.
No.
Your 3-year-old is going to be proud in about 20 years. Right now, it's like, yeah, that's great. But where's my food, Mom? Dad?
Right.
Why are you not talking to me?
Yes.
So I appreciate it. So I'm going to ask a question that I ask most of my authors is what advice would you give an inspiring author or an inspiring couple? Because this is very unique. What would you tell them if they're thinking, I have this idea? What would be that advice?
Yeah, I would say be patient. Be patient specifically with couples that are writing together. Be patient with each other. There's definitely a learning curve. And so take the time to learn the process together because it's totally different than writing alone. And I would say just be patient with the process because there's going to be a lot of ups and downs, but go through them together and enjoy the ride together.
Yeah. And I would say just keep sort of like how we wrote it is you just keep moving forward, keep asking questions. Writing the book was difficult. That's, I think, easy to say, but almost getting published was the more sometimes frustrating part because there's like this cycle, it seems like, if you're not already published, getting somebody to publish a book is difficult to do. And trying to break into that is difficult. So it's like just keep asking questions, keep sending people emails, just be persistent because if you just quit, then it's never gonna bear itself out. So just keep moving.
Patience and persistence is something I think creatives normally don't have. We want things now.
Right.
It's a microwave society. We want it now. And it's like, why is this not happening? So I love that advice. As you guys get ready to start on book 2, do you guys have a time frame you guys want trying to get it done? And when is book 3 in the frame of the world looking like?
Yeah. We would like 2025 for the second book to come out. That's our goal. We'll see if we can meet that.
That's our goal for that, for sure. And then book 3, it's one of those things where just with book 1 before you get to book 2, like, let's get book 1 done, then we'll do book 2. So we'll get to book 3 when book 2 is done.
Yeah.
But we've already, in our mind, sat down and written down too, sort of the arc of our story as well. We did that for book 1. We've done that for the whole series. And there's, of course, little adjustments and changes that happen along the way as we're writing that may affect the overall arc. But in general, we know what's happening. We have an idea of mostly what's going to happen in book 2 and mostly what's going to happen in book 3. It's just a matter of getting it down now.
Mm-hmm.
So are you technically pantsers or plotters? Do you actually outline, or are we going with the literally inspiration here? Because you got me. I'm like, wait, what are you doing? How does this work?
I know, a little bit of both. So I had inspiration with the original idea. And then when you include someone else, then you have to kind of start planning out a little bit. Then we had just a very basic outline. And then as we wrote it, going off of the key points of the outline, then we had to go back to inspiration. So it's a little bit of both.
Yeah. It's like loose outline.
Very loose.
Very loose outline. But then it kind of helps inform. So we make sure that we're telling the story as we ultimately want to tell it and hit the highlights that we want to, the key points of the book.
Okay, you guys brought a really interesting point. I'm like, ooh, how does this work? Because whose inspiration works faster than the other one, and how you guys go back and forth. So it's kind of interesting. You mentioned research. Have you guys done a little research with this book? Because it's kind of one of those, it is still fantasy, it is still another planet, but is there research you guys did to get you prepared for it?
I wouldn't say, not that I can think of any particular research. Many of the worlds are just based on personal life experience and things that we see or could like easily see the world turning into if it continues on a certain path. I think that was more written out of like personal experience.
Yeah. I would say that we did a little bit of research though, and it was kind of as we wrote it though, because there is a little bit of a science fiction aspect. So we wanted it to make some sense to the reader. And then it's also Christian allegory. So we had to make sure that the themes were on point with that as well. But I wouldn't say we did a ton of research before we wrote it.
Right. Yeah.
You guys are probably another couple that does it. I have a friend who is very much research as they go.
Yes.
And it's for the fear of getting lost in the research bubble.
Right.
Because you can go down that path and not come back for very much, a couple of days. So I like the fact that you guys doing it as you go and finding it. What is one thing you guys learn in this process that you were not prepared for?
I think probably the teamwork aspect, because I think even before we wrote the book, we were good teammates, good partners, good spouses, but I think we didn't necessarily realize, at least at first, how difficult it potentially could be with like the back and forth and trying to build off of each other's ideas, and how that might take some time to like get into each other's mindset. And I think that was something that by the time we got to the end of it though, was we were very much like in sync. But the time that it took, and literally though, like learning how she was thinking about things, like I thought I knew how she thought, but by writing a book together, you really learn how the wheels turn and the things that inspire her and the way that she's going to go with an idea. I didn't necessarily expect that I would learn more about Brie, but I learned a lot more about her.
Yeah, that's true. And I would also say, to go off of the mindset aspect, I always tell people that writing the book together was therapeutic for us, because every time we entered into writing together, we had to be in the right mindset. So if something little was off and we were frustrated with the other person about something silly, even, then we weren't able to enter the writing process successfully because that other little thing was in the background just bothering us. So every time we had to go in with the right mindset, clear and at peace with each other.
Creation in all levels is a whole communion with the universe. And if you're not in sync, the universe is like, I don't feel like playing with you guys.
Not tonight.
So you guys got to experience that from a whole different perspective, because it's hard as an author to clear your mind, but when you have to work with two people to get you guys in sync. And by the way, two people who are married. It's not like you're like, I don't want to talk to you today.
I'll see you later.
I'll call you tomorrow. Or let's try what I feel. I have a headache. There's no headaches when you're married. You're like, wait, what? So I appreciate it. I do appreciate how tender you both are and how open you are to share this with authors who's actually honestly going, can I do this? And can I do this with my spouse? So I love it. Tell me, dears, where can our listeners find the book, where they can learn more about you guys and follow this amazing journey?
Yeah, so we have our website, briannamatthewpenfold.com. Certainly, there's links from there to Amazon, to Barnes & Noble, and to IndieBound to buy a copy of it. And then to learn more about us and some of the reviews that our book has gotten and some of the awards that we've also gotten for the book as well are all on our website too.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. So before you leave us, you guys ready for the lightning round?
We're ready.
I'm going to ask the same question to both of you because I'm curious to see how you guys both answer. So this should be interesting. And then we're going to go from there. Simple, easy peasy. Don't think too hard of it. Whatever the answer comes, that's what it is. Let's start with Matthew. Home cooked meals or restaurants?
Oh, probably restaurants.
Okay. Brianna?
Restaurants.
Not bad. Breakfast or dinner? Start with Brianna.
Breakfast.
Yeah.
Love breakfast.
Yeah, breakfast.
Okay. You guys might be more in sync than I thought. Let's try this one. Pirate or knight? Matthew.
Oh.
Ooh,
I'm gonna go pirate. Yeah.
that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to go just to be different with night.
Okay. So here's another one. Comedy or action? Brianna, we'll start with you.
I'm going to say comedy.
And I'll
I
say
love
action.
sitcoms.
Yeah, sitcoms
Yeah.
are good, but I'll say
Yeah,
action.
you do. Yeah.
Which one was it, Matthew?
Action for me.
Okay. So here's a little different, and I'm curious to see how you guys play with this. And Matthew, you will go first. If you could be any Disney villain, who will you be?
Oh man, any Disney villain?
Mm-hmm.
I'll go with Zurg from Toy Story.
Oh, that's a good one.
Okay. Brianna?
I'll say Yzma because I love The Emperor's New Groove.
That's good.
It's so good.
That is so good, actually. Just saw it recently. My dears, I am so excited for you guys. Congratulations.
Thank
Sending you guys
you so
much.
lots of love. Enjoy the new process. You guys are getting ready to start book 2. Any closing remarks for us?
Thanks so much for having us on. We hope you'll check out the book for
Yeah,
readers.
absolutely. Yeah, we really appreciate the time, the opportunity to come and talk with you and get a chance to share our book and our writing story.
It has been such a pleasure. Thank you to our listeners. Go ahead and check out this book. You're probably just as curious as I am why this poor child is working so many hours. So go ahead, check it out. Give them a like, join their community. Make sure you follow them along. And remember, we'll be back next Monday with another amazing author. Bye, guys.